So despite losing Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green in the offseason, the Toronto Raptors stay winning games. They actually have a better record this year than they did last year, and that's not even taking into account all the injuries they've had. And it's really a testament to the front office first to be able to unearth all these undrafted and given up on second round picks that we'll talk about in a second. And it's a greater testament to Nick Nurse, who I think is very quickly becoming probably the most creative coach in the league, especially with Popovich and Brad Stevens kind of falling off in that area over the last couple of years. But just listen to the injuries Toronto had to deal with. Marc Gasol, their starting center, missed basically half the season. Serge Ibaka missed 14 games. Norman Powell missed 20 games. Fred VanVleet missed 16 games. Kyle Lowry missed 12 games. Siakam missed 11 games. Basically all of their starters, important guys, have missed double-digit games. The one person on their team that has played every game this year is undrafted rookie Terrence Davis, who has been great for them, by the way. And they just continue to unearth these guys like Terrence Davis, Matt Thomas, Malcolm Miller has given them minutes, Patrick McCaw. All of these guys who you've barely heard of or never heard of have played big roles and big minutes for them throughout the season. So to get to the title of the video, are they going to repeat? I don't think it's out of the question, especially with the NBA being in the bubble and some guys sitting out. I definitely think this is a team that's not going to get rattled. There's a great mix of veterans and young guys, and even the young guys have a lot of playoff experience, like Siakam, Norman Powell, Anunoby. They've all played big minutes in the playoffs. And when you just look at their team statistics, all of the stats that the smart teams are good at, the Raptors are good at. Like the Raptors are 6th in assist to turnover ratio, they're 7th in 3-point percentage, they're 5th in free throw percentage. All of the little mistakes that you make, the Raptors have been able to capitalize. So with regard to the playoffs, I think these 8 seeding games are really huge for them because they really want to hold that 2 seed so they can avoid Philly and play one of either Orlando, Brooklyn, or Washington. And all those series would probably be easy for them. Orlando might be kind of tricky. I know Orlando stole a game on them last year, and they had a lot of long switchable defenders too. Orlando kind of is a little bit of diet Raptors when you compare roster to roster, but playing Orlando in the first round would be much better for them than playing Philly, especially if the standings hold and Boston plays Philly in the first round. I think Philly's a bad matchup for Boston, and I could see that series going 6 or 7. So while the Raptors could possibly sweep or win in 5, the Celtics might be coming off a really grueling series, and that's just more bonus points for the Raptors right there. Now, how will they match up against the Celtics? I think pretty well. I think Kyle Lowry is, out of any other point guard in the Eastern Conference, you probably want to put Kyle Lowry on Kemba Walker. Kyle Lowry this year has really ascended himself to the level of Chris Paul annoyance, if you understand what I mean. He's just that guy in your rec league who you just don't want guarding you, who's just going to be all up in your space all game, bitching at the refs all game, and get a lot of shit to go his way. And I mean all that as a compliment. All that stuff just contributes to them winning, and he's really become a winning player as his career has gone on in Toronto. I think the bigger question for anybody who plays the Celtics is how are they going to defend the wing trio they have of Gordon Hayward, Tatum, and Brown. And I think out of any team in the Eastern Conference, besides maybe Milwaukee, but I think it's probably neck and neck, Toronto's got the roster to do it. Siakam is tall, athletic, can move side to side. You can put Siakam on any one of those 3 guys and feel comfortable. Same thing with Anunoby. Same thing even in spurts with Ibaka. Ibaka has really had a second life to his career in Toronto, and this year especially, averaging basically 40% from 3, 8 rebounds, 6 points a game. And even though he's not the intimidating rim protector that he was in OKC, he is by no means a bad defender, and I still think he's a positive defender. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, another body they can throw out there. Chris Boucher can move his feet. You kind of get what I'm getting at here, right? I think they'll have plenty of bodies to throw at the Celtics wings, and I think if the Celtics wings, if one of them's torching a Raptors player, they have 3 or 4 other guys they can switch on to him. So for the Celtics to really get a lot of momentum in that series, Tatum is really going to have to go off, or Brown, that's most likely going to be Tatum. But still, they're going to need an all-time performance from one of those guys, I think, to win this series. Even though Tatum had a really horrible first game in the bubble, I think Tatum is really good, and I do think he's capable of a performance like that, but we can talk about Tatum another time. I'm curious if Nick Nurse will go big. Obviously, the trend is to go small and spread the floor with shooting, but the Raptors' bigs can shoot. Specifically, I'm talking about Gasol and Ibaka, and the Celtics have basically been running one big guy all year. Usually it's Tice. And Tice has had a solid year. I think he can really move his feet. I think he can play pick and roll defense, which is going to bode well for Boston. But can Ibaka and Gasol stay on the floor defensively at the same time and give Toronto a big rebounding edge? We won't know for sure until we see it, but I definitely trust Nick Nurse to figure out a way to make that lineup work, because I think that could be very beneficial to them. And all the struggles that Houston has been having lately on the glass, I think Toronto with their roster compared to Boston could really reap the benefits of out-rebounding Boston, 10, 15 plus a game. And as a lot of you guys probably know, the best time to get a three-point shot is off of an offensive rebound. And this Raptors team has got shooters everywhere. Siakam, 36%. Lowry, kind of a down year at 35%, but we all know Lowry's a fantastic three-point shooter, and I wouldn't be surprised if that spikes up during the playoffs. Van Vliet, 39%. Powell's at 40%. Ibaka's basically at 40%. Anunoby's at 38%. Terrence Davis at 40%. Marc Gasol's at 40%. They got this undrafted rookie, Matt Thomas, who's shooting 47% from three-point land. I'm telling you, if Toronto can dominate the offensive glass in this series, I don't really even think Boston has a shot. So now, let's say Toronto gets past Boston, which I would pick. I would pick Toronto in 7 in that series. How do they match up against Milwaukee? Pretty decent still. Obviously, losing Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green were big defenders that they used to kind of build that wall that really, didn't take Giannis out of the game, but limited Giannis's production. I think they still have the personnel to employ that same type of defensive strategy, and I don't think I've seen enough improvement from Giannis as a player or the Bucks as a roster this year that tells me that they could overcome that. Especially if Eric Bledsoe has his annual playoff woes and Giannis struggles from the free throw line again. I don't know. I could definitely see the Bucks falling in this series. Another aspect that we have to keep in our minds is they lost Malcolm Brogdon, who in the series last year between Milwaukee and Toronto, Malcolm Brogdon was very clearly their second best player. Now, hopefully Chris Middleton cannot shit the bed this time, and same thing with Bledsoe. I have more faith in Middleton. I think Middleton's a good player. I have no faith in Bledsoe. Brook Lopez hasn't been shooting well from 3 this year. I don't know. I really don't have a whole lot of confidence in picking Milwaukee in that series. Now, I think I would if you put a gun to my head, but if this series happens and Milwaukee's a massive favorite, hey, I'd put some money on Toronto. I think that would be a really valuable bet. Now, if they make it all the way to the finals, we're projecting really far out at this point. I don't like their chances against either the Clippers or the Lakers, but I didn't like their chances against the Warriors last year either. And as we saw, we're only 1 or 2 injuries away from chaos happening in the finals. And especially with those two teams being so reliant on their top 2 players, if one of either Kawhi, Paul George, AD, or LeBron goes down, the Raptors will be licking their chops and being like, this is ours. They can definitely stop a team with one superstar. We saw them do it to Milwaukee last year. We might see them do it to Milwaukee again this year. So that's what's up. The Raptors are good, man.